Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. So here we have the matchup tier list for what's going to be the upcoming midseason patch for Overwatch 2. Granted, there are going to be more changes down the pipeline, most notably for Roadhog and his ult, or just whatever his kit's going to be. You know, whether his ult's going to be changed, or his health's going to be changed, or his one-shot capabilities, we don't know yet, but hopefully we'll see in the coming weeks. That being said, if you want to see more Soldier 76 content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I also have my Twitch page, which you can follow down below at twitch.tv/newfrontier_. That being said, let's jump into this tier list. So again, this is a matchup tier list. This is where I think Soldier 76 can either thrive or he struggles with. Now, as you can see, in most situations, Soldier is pretty good against most of the cast, but there are going to be characters that give him a hard time, and we'll kick things off with the tough matchups. So D.Va as a character, her overall kit nullifies a lot of Soldier 76's approaches. Soldier as a character, he really wants characters or players who are predictable. He really thrives off of predictable patterns, and that's where his kit can really shine. D.Va, on the other hand, is a bit unpredictable in that she has a lot of ways to counter your flanks, whether you're engaging or disengaging. She has defense matrix, which nullifies your DPS approach, right? She can eat away your helix bomb. She can eat up your bullets. And if you try to flank her supports, she can peel on you. So there's a lot of things that make D.Va a tough matchup for Soldier. And so it's important to keep that in mind when you're up against a D.Va, to really just play your range, play mid-range as much as you can, and try and poke from behind if you can. But in most scenarios, it is tough for Soldier to really get a consistent amount of good damage on a D.Va. Next up, we have Doomfist. Doomfist is another character that I think is really tough for Soldier, just because, again, he's very unpredictable, and Soldier thrives off of characters who really are predictable in their movements. So Doomfist being a very, very movement-based character who's very unpredictable and can flank you at any time. He can, jump on you, disengage, come back, punch you in the face, and before you know it, you're dead. So it's hard for Soldier to keep up with that momentum. So Doomfist can be tough for Soldier just to nail down and pinpoint. At a range, however, sure, Soldier can obviously shoot him down and bait out his fists and his power-up charge, but a good Doomfist isn't going to allow that to happen. He's going to obviously try to force Soldier into positions where he's going to be vulnerable and then take advantage of that. So that's a tough matchup for Soldier. Next, Orisa. Orisa is, of course, right now the meta pick in Overwatch 2, just as is Roadhog. But Orisa is tough because, for one, she's just hard to kill. In metal ranks, she's tough to kill, and I imagine in higher ranks too, she's a little bit, annoying to deal with. And the reason is because she has Fortify, she's got her Javelin, and she has her Helicopter, which I like to call, just her E, right? And so when you consider all things, Orisa as a character really just wants to pressure you. And while Soldier has the advantage of playing at mid-range and poking her down, her Javelin can still stop a lot of your approaches. And you really want to be able to try and bait out her cooldown to get the most value out of her, or at least out of Soldier, to, of course, take her off the field. But it's not as easy as it seems, because if Orisa is being pocketed by a good support, then it is hard for Soldier to really nail her down. And as I said, with Javelin being in her kit, it can be very difficult to take advantage of your own ult, because your ult is really all about trying to create space, but also you want to get damage. And her Helicopter can easily eat up all that damage. So if you're up against an Orisa and you pop your ult, and she's, in front of you, she can easily just defend all of her backline by just using her Helicopter and just swirling it and, absorbing all your potential, advantage. So for that, Orisa is a tough matchup. It's hard to kill her, and it's also just hard to deal damage consistently when she's around you. Roadhog is somewhat similar in that he's just hard to kill. He has great sustainability. He's got long-term, sustain on field. And when he hooks you, goodbye, right? it's difficult at times to know what a hog wants to do, and a really good hog is not going to be predictable with his one-shot hooks. So you need to be very mindful and be very cognizant of where you put yourself on the map. But again, a good hog player is going to want to bait you and almost force you to come to him, and then when that happens, you know, you're going to get hooked. But in the hands of a good soldier player, you already know that's coming, so you want to be as distant as possible, playing outside that max range of the hook to get your advantage. But as I said, he's just tough to deal with because he's just so tanky, and the potential one shot there is really a threat to Soldier, because Soldier has no real way of escaping that. You know, you can try and pop your E before he gets you, but that's not going to really work. He can still one shot you and kill you. So those are tough matchups for what I think is for Soldier. Next, you've got Slightly Unfavorable. Now, these are, to me, they're still winnable with Soldier, but I think in the right hands of these particular players or characters, players can still win against Soldier more than half the time. So with Wrecking Ball has the advantage of just being all about disorienting you, all about rushing you from behind, running away, coming back, you know, sneaking up on you, hitting you with pile driver, running away. So he's all about just annoying you, and because you don't really have any sort of real angle on him, like especially if he's moving around constantly, it's hard to really nail a Wrecking Ball down. And a good Wrecking Ball is not going to make it very easy for you to hit him all the time. So it's really in the Wrecking Ball's favor if he's constantly rolling around you, making it hard for you to hit him. Because like I said before, it's all about predictability with Soldier. He wants characters who can be predictable so he can make the right moves and kill them. So Wrecking Ball, very similar to that of, like, let's say Winston or Doomfist, they're all about disrupting the enemy backline and just knocking you out. So you got to be really careful with Wrecking Ball with Soldier. Try and space yourself enough where you can get a few shots on him, but don't expect to be killing him with Soldier all the time. Now, I put Echo in Slightly Unfavorable just because, again, in the right hands of a really skilled Echo player, it's going to be a tough time. Because Echo, in my opinion, has way better aerial movement than Pharah does. Pharah, I think, is really easy for Soldier so long as you can pick her off and you can just dodge a lot of her incoming spam projectiles. But the reason why I put Slightly Unfavorable for Echo is that if she hits you and she gets you to half health, she can easily swoop down like a vulture and just pop her E and just kill you. That's how easy it is. So sure, you can pop your E and try to recover, but Echo has really good ways of baiting you out. And because her aerial movement is so much better than that of Pharah, it's definitely harder to hit her in the sky than it would be Pharah. So I put her at Slightly Unfavorable. It's still winnable. Of course, if you can nail your shots in the air and hit her, then of course you're good. But if she hits you, she's going to hit you pretty hard. So just be careful with that. Now, Sombra, I've put also in Slightly Unfavorable because when she's invisible, it's anyone's game at this point, right? You don't know where she's coming from. She can come at you from any angle at any given time. And the only thing that makes this slightly unfavorable and makes it somewhat winnable is that compared to Soldier, Sombra's damage output is not that high because of her nerfs, right? Her nerfs made her damage output not that great. So it's easier for you to pinpoint her when she hacks you. However, she can still teleport back to her healing spot and then, you know, constantly annoy you from the back line. Just, she's an annoying character to deal with. And so Soldier has a hard time picking her off consistently. He can get kills on her, but he has to be very mindful at all times. Kiriko is another tough one. Well, I wouldn't say tough, but it's slightly unfavorable because she has a lot of ways to escape. She's got her teleport, she's got Suzu, she can climb walls. So there are a lot of things that Kiriko can do to pretty much escape any pressure from Soldier, which is a good thing for a support character. So on a 1v1 duel scenario, I think that Soldier can still take her on, but all Kiriko needs is two well-placed headshots and you're dead. Because her crit buff on her kunai are so strong that she can easily 1v1 you if she needed to. And so you got to be a little bit careful. You don't want to be too close to Kiriko because again, she can easily kill you if you're not careful. So you want to be playing at a range where you're comfortable to poke her down and then bait out her cooldowns. And then once you've seen that she's baited herself out, then maybe you can move in for the kill a little bit. But still, it's safe to play at a range where you can still poke her down and then use your Helix rockets to knock her out. So it really comes down to the player, but I still put her slightly unfavorable because again, she has ways to escape and that makes her a little bit harder to kill. Moira is somewhat similar in that she can pretty much like use her teleport to almost like navigate around you. Like she can be really annoying to deal with. And because she has healing orb, she can out heal you in a 1v1 scenario. So you don't want to be dueling a Moira because she can out heal you. Even your E isn't fast enough at times to, you know, just sustain yourself. So you want to be at a range where you, again, you're baiting out cooldowns. If you can bait out Moira's teleport, then you can be rest assured you'll most likely win that match. But if you don't bait it out, or if you're not careful, and you know the Moira knows what's going on, she can easily just outmaneuver you and then come from behind you and then just suck you out, and then that's it. So I put her at slightly unfavorable. It's still winnable, like I said, it's still a doable matchup, but yeah, you need to be really, really alert as to how she moves and where she's going to be going next. Winston. Winston is a character I think is, again, another threat to Soldier because he, much like Doomfist and Wrecking Ball, they just have ways to navigate around the map really quickly, disrupt the enemy backline, and just annoy you. Now, the only thing I would say that makes it slightly unfavorable and somewhat winnable is that he can shoot his bubble. And so therefore, when you shoot his bubble, it's easier for you to kind of take him out, or at least help the team to take Winston out faster. And you do have the ability to run away from Winston, so if you know that he's going to dive on you, you have the chance to reposition and run off. Unlike other characters who are really slow, there's no real way of them escaping, whereas you have your sprinting, so if you know you're going to get dived on, then you can easily just run away, reposition, and then capitalize on that. But in most cases, I still think that a good Winston is going to try and, you know, really be surgical, really be tactical in how he attacks you. So it's really important to be super, super focused as to how you approach the matchup against Winston. It's winnable when he has no bubble up, but once he has his bubble up, you really want to try your best to play at a range where you're still safe. You can shoot at his bubble to weaken it, and then therefore when he's out of bubble, try and reposition yourself to get the most value out of your shots. So that's pretty much what I think are his toughest matchups in Overwatch 2 right now. Things are likely to change, but right now I think those are like they're more of a struggle for him than anything else. Now these are even. These are matchups where I think Soldier can either win them or lose them. So we'll start off with Ashe. Ashe, I think, is a character that is 50-50. Like you either can pulverize her with your bullets and Helix rockets, or she hits you with her, you know, one-shot capabilities. You know, she can headshot you with her really good range. Like you both are all about being at a range where you just can completely annoy people from your comfort zone. And so both of you are all about poking from a range, getting value for your team. And then when you have your ults, you can obviously maximize your potential that way. So it really comes down to, again, the player, but I think it's pretty 50-50. It just really comes down to how well you play your angles, how you reposition. You do have the advantage, however, in the sense that you can run away. Like you can dash left and right. You can circle around Ashe really quickly because she really has no way of doing much. And you can make an Ashe panic really quickly when you just, you know, zoom left and right. It's hard for her to hit you. Whereas you can easily just gun her down. But again, it really comes down to the player and how you position yourself on the map. And it really all comes down to the map as well. Like maps are really important when it comes to matchups because some maps favor Ashe while others favor Soldier. Though in my opinion, I think that Soldier is pretty even in a lot of maps. In most maps, I would say. But yeah, just make sure that you're at a range where you're comfortable enough to poke Ashe down and not put yourself in a position where you're over peaking to where she can shoot you. Bastion, I'd say this is pretty even too. Some would argue that this is a pretty favorable matchup for Soldier. And I would like to agree. I just think that Bastion, I think in the right hands too, can become a problem just because in his turret form, he's really dangerous. And if you're not careful, then, you know, you can get shot out of the sky, or you can just get shot and like easily. And plus he's more durable in his turret form with the 300 HP. So it's not as easy to kill him when he's in that form. Now, of course, in his regular form, you can obviously gun him down. His big hitbox makes it easier for you to hit him as he's an easier target. But a good Bastion is not going to just put himself out in the open and allow for you to just gun him down. He's going to try and peek, try and play his position behind walls. And then once he has his turret back up, you basically have to hide, because otherwise if you try to 1v1 him in turret form, there's a very good chance you're going to lose. That's why I say it's even. It really all depends on the scenario, and it depends on, you know, how much of a cooldown, you know, each one of you has, right? If one of you has your cooldowns faster, then of course the other one can potentially win. But again, it can go either way. Cassidy's the same thing. I think Cassidy is even because his magnetic grenade is just so freaking powerful that it can literally just kill you in the blink of an eye. You know, all it takes is one body shot and then a grenade, and then you're dead. Same thing can be for Soldier. Soldier can just pin, you know, he can pin Cassidy down with a lot of bullets. And if Cassidy tries to press you by coming too close, you've got Helix bombs to just knock him out. So you're pretty good too. Like a couple headshots and your Helix and you're good. So again, it's all even. It really depends on who's getting who. Like it all depends on how many shots are being hit. If Cassidy lands his shots on you, be careful, and vice versa. Hanzo is in the same category, I think, as Widowmaker, as they're both long range or mid range snipers, and so they have the ability to one shot you and kill you. So it really just comes down to you playing the more aggressive role in this scenario, because they want to be stationary to get the most value, right? Hanzo and Widowmaker, they want to be standing still looking for picks, whereas you could easily be running around. You can remaneuver, reposition at any time, engage, disengage. So you have the advantage with your sprint to basically find the right flanks, find off angles to shoot them and force them out of their position to get the most value for your team. So this is why I say it's even. It's even because they can one-shot you if you're not careful, but if you are smart enough to flank and knock them out of position and just make them panic, you can also win that fight too. So again, it comes down to the scenario, the map, you know, what circumstances you're in, but I'd say overall it's pretty even. Sojourn's the same thing. I think Sojourn, it's pretty straightforward. She shoots you, you shoot her back. Now she can obviously body shot you, but you can somewhat do the same with your Helix rockets. So the both of you, again, it really comes down to who's the better of the two players, right? Both of you have really great options in terms of maneuverability. I would say Soldier has better maneuverability because he can just move left, right, all around. Like he can just weave and dodge bullets like the Matrix. And now, granted, Sojourn can too, but she has more of like that slide, and then she goes up into the air. And when she's up in the air, that verticality makes her somewhat vulnerable to getting headshotted or just to get shot out of the sky. And that's where Soldier can also benefit from too, especially in his ult form. Like if Sojourn tries to avoid your ult and she goes into the sky, she's dead. You know, so you can easily shoot her there. But again, I think it's pretty even because both of you have really powerful ults that can really turn the tide of any game. And in a 1v1 scenario, I think, yeah, it can go either way. And the same thing, like I said, with Widow, it's just like Hanzo. If she can pick you off, good luck. But if you can force her position and just flank her constantly and annoy her, I think it can go either way. Next, we have Slightly Favorable. So Genji as a character, I think, is one that in the right hands can be very, very, very scary for Soldier. But Soldier does have ways to bait out his cooldowns and still shoot him and kill him. So if a Genji gets too aggressive, that's where Soldier can really shine, because all Soldier has to do is run away, reposition, bait out the deflect, bait out the dash, and then shoot Genji down and kill him. However, in a high level scenario where you have, let's say, a very, very good Genji who knows these things, they're not going to be as frequent. They're not going to be as, you know, predictable. So I say slightly favorable because Genji can still win the matchup if the Genji is good enough and smart enough to avoid enemy fire. But Soldier, like I said, Soldier has the advantage of being able to run around, literally run circles around Genji, and Genji can't do much about that. So that's why I put the advantage in Soldier's favor more. Symmetra, I think, is a very strong character right now in Overwatch 2. And people do, I think, sleep on this character because she has potential to be very, very, very strong. She's very annoying to deal with. She's got a lot of coverage with her turrets. It essentially gives her extended range because the turrets work for her, much like they work for Torbjorn. However, with Torbjorn, I'll go into Torbjorn later on. But I would say that when it comes to Symmetra versus Torbjorn, the reason why I put Torbjorn easier or very favorable is because Symmetra's turrets are a little bit harder to kind of pay attention to at times. Like you can literally see Torb's turret from a mile away, but if you're not careful with how Symmetra places her turrets, it can be hard to really know where she has placed her turrets, and a very smart Symmetra isn't going to put them in places where you're going to be seeing them all the time. So what you want to do as Soldier is just try your best to be the eyes for the team and shoot Symmetra where she's just out of position, because the reason why I put Soldier in a favorable situation is because Soldier can play at a range. Symmetra gets value from being up close with her beam, right? She wants to beam you down and essentially gain value from that. But if you're not close enough to her, she can't beam you. She can right click you, but that's an easily dodgeable move. Like you can dodge that no problem. Her turrets, again, you have to be somewhat close to her to, or at least somewhat close to the turrets for them to do damage. But if you're paying attention and you're sharp with your visuals, you can easily navigate around those turrets, shoot them down, and then just beam the heck out of Symmetra when she's out of position. So if you're out of position, Symmetra can win. Hands down. If you are a Soldier player who likes to kind of go in too heavily, and you're too aggressive, Symmetra will beat you. I would say most of the time, Symmetra will beat you. But if you are a smart Soldier and you play at a range where you're comfortable and you force her to come to you, you'll always win. Tracer is somewhat similar in the sense that Tracer has ways to be unpredictable, but because you can one-shot her, pretty much like you can use Helix Rocket and melee her and then she's dead. And so if you're able to like predict her patterns of movement, this matchup is pretty easy. However, in the hands of a good Tracer, she can be annoying. She's like a mosquito. She's hard to hit at times, and she can race around you and make it hard for you to pin her. So I'd say it's favorable for a Soldier because he can just play at a range and just, you know, obviously shoot her down. And if you're playing high ground, even better, right? If you're playing high ground versus Tracer, she can't really do much to you. So try to play at a range where, again, you're able to poke her down, and if she gets aggressive to you, that's when you save up your Helix Rockets and your melee and just one-shot her, and that's where you can win all the time. Mercy, now Mercy doesn't really have like any damage output, but the reason why I put her slightly unfavorable is just because of her movement. She has like she's like Echo in the sense that she's hard to hit, but Echo has more advantages because she can transform. She's got damage output, which is really big. Mercy doesn't have much damage output. She's just all about being there to support her teammates and pocket them for more damage. So what you need to do is play at a distance where you can, again, pop her out of the sky, just like you would a Pharah, and then get rid of her, and that's it. So it's slightly favorable because, again, she can just weave and dodge and make it hard for you to kill her, which can be annoying since this is a game where, you know, you want to stay alive as long as possible, and that's what Mercy can do. So Soldier just needs to be patient. You just need to be very, very self-aware and ask yourself, is it worth shooting at this target that's constantly moving, or should I wait until she's at a position where she's actually hittable? So these are questions you're going to ask yourself as a Soldier main. Like, what should I do if I see a Mercy flying through the sky like a rocket ship? Do I want to waste my bullets on this, or are there other opportunities around me that I can use to bait Mercy into a bad position and then kill her? Those are things you want to be always constantly reminding yourself. Now, Ramatra is pretty new to the game, and outside of his ult, I think Ramatra is pretty easy to deal with as Soldier. All you gotta do is just pelt him with bullets, right? Just try and angle yourself where you can always be just outside of his range, but enough where you can still knock him out with bullets. And if you can flank him, even better, because then he has to force himself into Nemesis form, which is totally fine because I can run away, right? You can reposition on him, you can flank him if necessary. So there are a lot of things that Soldier can do more than Ramatra can. Remember, Soldier can heal himself, so if you are in danger, you can run away, heal, come back, rinse and repeat. Whereas Ramatra has to depend solely on his supports to heal him. And so if everyone's targeting him and shooting him, then it makes it hard for Ramatra to do much. Now in his ult form, however, that's where things can get tricky. But again, Soldier has the advantage of running away from him very quickly. So I think, again, Soldier in this matchup, I feel as long as you're playing at a safe distance, you're flanking safely, and you're disengaging safely, you should be good against Ramatra, no problem. Same thing with Sigma. Sigma, you just want to be careful of his rocks. You don't want to get stunned by his rocks because that obviously puts you in a bad position. But if you are getting hit by rocks, it's likely because you're probably too close. So you want to be playing at a range where, again, you're able to take advantage of your kit, where you can reposition, engage, disengage, flank, come back to your team. And because Sigma is so slow, you have the advantage of speed. So you can use your speed to your advantage and just work your way around him, get around him really quickly, get some damage on him, and then help your team out to sustain over time. So I don't think this is a terrible matchup. I think this is a pretty good for Soldier. Just as long as you don't get into Sigma's range where he wants to poke you, because his pokes do more damage. Like if he hits you with two of his normals and then one rock, you're pretty much dead. So you got to be careful. But if you're playing safe enough where you're not going to hit by that, you're okay. Now, here are most of his good matchups. Now, as you can see, most of, like I said before, Soldier has a lot of pretty good matchups. They're either even in his favor or are really heavily in his favor. And all these ones at the bottom, I think, are really in Soldier's favor. Zarya can't do much. She's a brawler. She wants to be up close. She wants to be able to, you know, soak as much damage as possible. And you can easily bait out her bubbles and wait for her bubbles to pop and then just shoot her down. And she can't do anything to you. So Soldier can easily run away from her. She can't chase you down. You can easily shoot her from a mile away. Helix rockets for more value. Build up your meter and you're good. Junkrat, same thing. Junkrat is all about wanting to zone you out. He wants to basically annoy you with his projectiles, trap you. But see, the reason why so many people get annoyed with Junkrat is because they're playing out of position too much. They're playing too greedy. They get annoyed, and that's the whole plan of Junkrat. And Junkrat's my secondary character. So when you play Junkrat, your whole game plan is to annoy the enemy, force them out of position, annoy them to the point where they're so confused or so irritated that they want to kill you. So what do? They rush into you, and then that's when you capitalize with your traps and your concussion mines, and that's where you get your value for Junkrat. However, if you're a smart Soldier player, you're not going to do that. You know, you're not going to try and run into a Junkrat and try and, you know, duel him up close, because up close, Junkrat beats you. Junkrat can trap you, and he can just concussion mine you, and you're dead. GG, right? So if you play from a range where you can just constantly poke him down, you'll win almost all the time, because it's going to force Junkrat out of his position because he wants to heal. And as long as you can follow him, because most of the time Junkrats are pretty predictable in how they move, so as long as you're able to predict his movement patterns, just shoot him down and hit him with a Helix rocket and he's gone. Mei is honestly slept on, and if you haven't watched my video earlier about Mei, be sure to check it out. I think Mei is a very slept on character in this particular meta, because the meta right now is slowing down. You know, we're using much slower, I guess, quote unquote slower. Orisa really isn't that slow, but you know, you've got Roadhog, you've got Orisa. But in a slower meta, I think Mei does shine because she has her walls to, you know, control choke points really well. She has good sustain with her ice block. Her right click is really strong if you can hit headshots. Her freeze, her left click is just really good to slow down enemies. So she has a really good kit. But I think Soldier does really well against her because she has to be up close to really do anything to you. Like she has to basically force herself towards you to use her left click and slow you down, right? When you get too close to Mei, that's where she wins, because she can just slow you down when you're trying to run away, and that's it. And her right clicks, you can easily dodge that. Like if you know that she's trying to shoot at you with right click, just dodge them. It's not that difficult. And you can force out her ice block really quickly. And once her ice block is gone, she has no way to sustain herself. So you can easily just ping her and let your teammates know to just focus on Mei and just kill her. That's how easy it is. So I'd say in most scenarios, Soja wins this matchup 100%. If, of course, like I said, if you are out of position and you're just playing too aggressively and you're trying to flank, then you're going to lose. So don't do that. Try and play really smart, play at your range that you're comfortable with, and then you'll always win. Pharah, as I mentioned earlier in the video, Pharah as a character is easier to manage and deal with. Even if she is pocketed, she's still easier to deal with because you can dodge her spam projectiles pretty easily. Like her rate of fire is not as strong as yours. So you can easily whittle her down faster in terms of your DPS than she can. And so all you have to do is just reposition on her, run away, reposition, get a good angle, shoot her out of the sky. And then all that's going to do is it's going to bait her to move around in, in really predictable ways. And if she is being pocketed, then all you got to do is just focus Mercy, right? Force the Mercy out of position. And then it kind of like flows into each other, right? You bait one character to do something, and the other character has to do the same thing. So they both become predictable over time. So I think with Pharah, if she is being pocketed by Mercy, just try and focus the Mercy. And if she's not being pocketed, then just focus on Pharah and just knock out of the sky. It's not that difficult. It's pretty straightforward. Just make sure to force her out of her position a lot of times. Make her scared to want to be in the sky too frequently, and then go from there. And then Reaper. Reaper is also easy. I think as long as you don't play too close to him, because that's where Reaper gets his benefits. Like he reaps the rewards, no pun intended, if you're up close. So you don't want to be doing that. You want to be as far away from Reaper as possible. If he gets close to you via his teleport, run away. It's that simple. Like if you know that the Reaper is likely to have his ult ready, as I said before, every player has a pattern. And it's really predictable. You can tell when a player has an ult when they get really aggressive, right? So when you see a Reaper trying to push you, he's trying to find angles on you, that's likely because he's really close to getting his ult. So what you need to do is just stay as far away from that as possible. And if you know he's going to ult, get your ult ready, right? Have your ult ready for him so you can counter his ult. Or just, again, be ready at the helm and just fire at him, So force him to not use his ult, because the more damage he takes, he's going to be scared to want to use his ult because he's going to die. So as long as you're playing at a range that's mid-range, poking him, you're okay. But if you get too close, if you're a soldier player that tries to be too greedy and you're trying to get all these picks off by trying to be this huge flanker, you're not going to get any value because Reaper's just going to knock you out. All Reaper needs is like 1 to 2, if not 3 shots, and you're gone. So be careful with that. Next, we have Torb. Now, Torb, as I was saying earlier, Torb is easier than that of Symmetra, only because Torb's turret, you can see it. It's so big, just like he is. His hitbox is big, his turret is big. It's easier for you to pinpoint and just nail. Now, granted, if you're fighting a good Torb, they're likely going to try and put it in positions where it's harder to hit. But again, it's a pretty big target to not miss, and as long as you're able to just be the eyes for the team and knock it out for the team, you're okay. And then Torb, he can't do anything to you. Like he has to be, like Torb has his left click, which is pretty strong, but his is a projectile. You have bullets, so your DPS time, your DPS is so much faster. Your rate of fire is faster. Plus you have helix bombs, which can easily destroy you if you're not careful as well. So the fact that you can run away, right? He can't run he can run, but not as fast as you can. He has sustain like you, but you can sustain for a longer period of time. So you have a greater advantage in terms of range, sustain, and just maneuverability. So you can flank him, you can force out his cooldowns, run away, kill his turret, and then just rinse and repeat, but before you know it, he's gone. Anna, I think Anna's pretty easy as long as you just don't get too close to her for her to utilize her sleep darts on you. You're okay. Of course, same thing with her anti. You don't want to get anti-nated because that's kind of bad for your healing and sustain. But yeah, just poke Anna from a range. She can't do much to you. Make her scared to, be in the back line. Like make her afraid and force her to do something predictable, right? Force her to move in a predictable way so you can get value for her. And then Junker Queen. Junker Queen, just like Zarya, they're both really up close and personal characters who want to do all their damage in a very, very quick and precise manner. So they want to be poking you from close range to get the most damage. And then their ults, well, most notably Junker Queen's ult, is very dangerous. I would say it's one of the best ults in the game. So you really need to be careful with how you deal with the Junker Queen when she has ult. But when she doesn't have ult, Junker Queen is still okay. Like you can still deal with her because unlike a Sigma, unlike let's say a Ramatra or an Orisa who have ways to kind of prevent them from taking damage, Junker Queen has like no deflect, if that makes any sense. You can still shoot her as long as you need to, and her cooldowns are really, really long, right? So her healing takes about 14 seconds. So you can take that time to just continue to peel on her and just not, whittle her down slowly while you can self-sustain, you can heal and do all these good things. Run away from her. She can't chase you down. So there's not much she can do. Baptiste, he has the advantage of being very vertical, but you have the advantage of being able to run around and just shoot at any angle. So Baptiste wants to be healing his teammates most frequently. He's not all about doing damage. So as long as you're able to just shoot him down and prevent him from healing his teammates, it'll force him to heal himself, but that's a good thing, right? Forcing him to use his lamp is just really, really effective because then you can shoot it down and then now the teammates have no heals and you can just pin him down easily. Brigitte is another easy character. The only thing that really benefits her is her shield because you have to shoot through it to get value. But once that's down, she's nothing to be afraid of because she again wants to be close to you. And the moment she tries to push you, just run away, right? Anytime you see enemies try to get too aggressive, just run. Like you don't have to hold your position to try and be like I'm the stronger of the two. I'm gonna hold my spot. No, I think it's really good that if you know that the enemy is being too aggressive on you, just run away. Because Brigitte can't chase you down. And if she tries, you can turn around as she's chasing you and just, shoot her in the face. And she has to run away. So, yeah, that's a pretty easy matchup for Soldier as well. Lucio, I was going to put Lucio in slightly favorable because one thing about Lucio is that he has movement. And as I was saying earlier, like being unpredictable in this game is what makes matchups tough for Soldier, right? And Lucio is unpredictable. He can really mix up his movement patterns, wall ride around you and make it hard for you to hit him. However, what makes it favorable is that outside of his movement, he's no real threat in terms of how he can kill you. Like sure, he can boop you, but that's really specific in terms of your position and the map. So if you're on a map where you're likely to get booped, like Ilios or Lijiang Tower, for example, then sure, be careful. But if you're in a map where there's no way for you to get booped off the map in any way, just play from a range and just keep on shooting Lucio until he's forced to run away, and that's it. Because if he runs away, what's he gonna do? He's no threat to the team. He's gone. So it's pretty easy for you. Zenyatta, I think, is pretty straightforward too. You can just easily whittle him down. You can flank him and take him out. Just be sure not to get too close to Zenyatta. In fact, I would just recommend not to because he can actually kill you. Like Zenyatta is actually pretty scary. And if you're not careful against Zenyatta, he can potentially just wipe you out. So you want to be playing again, play safe, if you're going to flank safely. Flank at a range where he can still get shots off and he can't kick you. He can't really utilize his shots correctly. As long as you're weaving left and right, making his shots harder, you're okay. Because remember, his rate of fire is somewhat slower. You can still, hit him with bullets as you're weaving and dodging. Whereas he can do the same, but you're still hitting him faster. And plus you've got Helix Rocket to heal yourself. Or sorry, Helix Rocket to hit him, but you've got Sustain to heal yourself. Sorry. And then lastly, we've got Reinhardt. Reinhardt, I feel, is similar to Zarya and Junker Queen. Just anyone who's like a brawler it's harder for them to really do much to Soldier because they have to be up close to get value. So if you're playing too greedy and you're trying to knock out this Reinhardt from like face to face, Reinhardt's going to always beat you. There's no way you're going to win against a Reinhardt who's just going to be swinging at the fences until he hits you and just chops you in two. But if you're just consistently at a high enough range, like if you're on high ground and you're poking at him, he can't do much to you. He can send his fireball at you if he wants to, but that you can dodge that. So as long as you're playing at a high ground, as long as you're playing at ranges where you're safe, there's nothing for you to worry about at all. You're pretty good to go on that. So overall, I think Soldier in this current meta of Overwatch 2, he's honestly really, really strong. I think people just don't give Soldier enough credit. And I guess it's because he's like an OG character. Everyone's so used to him. But as I always like to say, sometimes being simple and just being like that straightforward character is far more superior than trying to be this really complicated, eccentric type of character who's trying to like utilize every part of their kit. Like Soldier is just get one thing done, shoot, heal, run, flank, engage, disengage, and just kind of mix all those all together, and you've got a recipe for a insanely good versatile character who is easy to pick up and play, but when you master him, he is arguably one of the hardest characters to deal with in all of Overwatch 2. So hopefully this helps you in some way to understand matchups in the world of Overwatch 2 with Soldier 76. If you want to see more Soldier 76, again, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know who's your toughest matchup for Soldier 76 out there. Who gives you an annoyance? Who's annoying you the most as a Soldier 76 main? Let me know in the comments. And again, follow me on twitch.tv/newfrontier_ to see me live playing with more of the Soldier. Until next time, take care, folks. Have a good one. Peace out.